Thank you all for coming, and thanks to the library for being our host. The evening will be a brisk hour. We have asked 6 noted local writers to supply short pieces to be performed by 6 noted local actors. There's a bit of everything: poem, story, essay, play. So I guess we'll just begin. So Alison Lurie is well known for novels and essays, and also for elegant children's books, one of which is called The Heavenly Zoo. And it consists of retellings of legends about the constellations. Cynthia Henderson will read one of the stories from The Heavenly Zoo. It's called The Great Dog.
Good evening. Once upon a time in India, there were 5 princes who left their kingdom to seek the kingdom of heaven. With them, they took only food and drink for the journey, and the prince Yudhishthira brought his dog Svana. Now, besides Yudhishthira, who was the eldest, the brothers were Sahadeva, the all-wise who was learned beyond other men, Nakula, the all-handsome, famed for his grace and beauty, Arjuna, the all-powerful who had never been defeated in any contest of arms, and Bhima, the all-joyful, known far and wide for his good temper and love of pleasure. So they set forth and journeyed many days and many nights. Presently they came to a fair where music was playing and people were drinking and dancing and feasting. Some of them saw Bhima, the all-joyful, and called out for him to come and join them. Bhima said to himself, I will rest here today and be happy and seek the kingdom of heaven tomorrow. So he entered into the dance, and Yudhishthira and his brothers Sahadeva and Nakula and Arjuna and his dog Svana went on without him. They traveled for many days and many nights, till they came to a broad plain where a great army was drawn up in ranks and facing the enemy. When the soldiers saw Arjuna, the all-powerful, they shouted out, summoning him to come and lead them into battle. Arjuna said to himself, I will fight today for my country and seek the kingdom of heaven tomorrow. So he joined the soldiers, and Yudhishthira and his brothers Sahadeva and Nakula and his dog Svana went on without him. So they traveled for many days and nights till they came to a magnificent palace surrounded by a garden full of flowers and fountains. And in this garden, a beautiful princess was walking with her attendants. When she saw Nakula, the all-handsome, she was seized with love and longing and called out to him, asking him to join her in the garden. Nakula, too, was struck with love and said to himself, I will stay with this princess today and seek the kingdom of heaven tomorrow. So he went into the garden, and Yudhishthira and his brother Sahadeva and his dog Svana went on without him. They journeyed on for many weary days and nights until they came to a great temple. When the holy men who lived there saw Sahadeva, the all-wise, they ran out, inviting him to come and join them in prayer and study. And Sahadeva said, I will stay here today and seek the kingdom of heaven tomorrow. So he went into the temple, and Yudhishthira and his dog Svana went on without him. At last, Yudhishthira came to Mount Meru, which is the doorway to heaven, and Indra, the Lord of past and present, appeared before him and invited him to ascend. Yudhishthira bowed low and replied, "Very willingly, I will do so, if I may bring my dog Svana with me." "That may not be," said Indra. "There is no place in heaven for dogs. Cast off this beast and enter into eternal happiness." "I cannot do that," said Yudhishthira. I do not wish for any happiness for which I must cast off so dear a companion. What, you traveled on without your four brothers, said Indra. Why will you not ascend to heaven without this dog? My lord, said Yudhishthira, my brothers left me to follow the desires of their hearts, but Svana has given his heart to me. Rather than renounce him, I must renounce heaven. You have spoken well, said Indra. Come in and bring your dog with you. So, Yudhishthira and Svana ascended into paradise, and Indra, in recognition of their devotion to each other, set in the sky the constellation of the great dog, whose central star, Sirius, is the brightest of all in the heavens.
Diane Ackerman has won many awards for her nonfiction and for her poems. Kate Klein will read her poem, And Done to Her Husband. And a spoiler alert, her husband is John Donne.
Come to bed, Jack. The candles shed to its waxy skirt, and I can read your straying wits by the moon. A brain fly must be buzzing your head. What is it now? That new ice? Sheeting the pond like a scald on hot milk? The swoon of dam water like a silent diphthong? Lucky pond to hold your gaze so long. My eiderdown is greener than a glade. You gave it me yourself, high when you dubbed me your new-found land, and swore my continence your quest. You'd trade along the shores of my dark-timbered eyes, where unwooed luxuries of life meander, and time drops sail like a ketch in a lagoon. Well then, what keeps you? Come away from the window. You get ideas like other men catch cold. Mid-morning, a trifle waylaid you again, and now your eyes, like twin hyenas, pick dinner in the slivery light from the moon. Enough of your lyric flight. Enough peeking under the night's black shirt. All day you've been sickening with a verse. For God's sake, quit gaming with love in poems abstruse or as physical as if you were a physical man. Maybe this one you'll title Love's Dynasty and begin with a sunset lying on the horizon like an eel twitching its thick brown hide, then hint at things matrimonial. And who'll guess that tonight, upright as an easel, you've earth on the brain, not me, though I'd tie you in lawless knots if I could. My heart knows no rhetoric but your name, Jack, that, like a doomed colonial, sails out with a seed chest full of hope and raises so little crop. How can I compete with a vision? What holy logic could my wiles defy? Your muse that's fat and sassy as a cow. Could I stint her even one of her piquancies, her powwows, her sprees? What would it cost in hard daily coin if I shook you loose from this reverie? I am not love's barrister. Wish I were. But an oft-put woman on a night growing bleaker. And night was never longer, or woman weaker.
Catherine Howd Mackin is a professor of writing at Ithaca College and a prolific poet. Katie Spallone will read her poem, Martha Blackmer.
How does a woman know the man she's wed? She shares his meals, she sleeps in the same bed, she soaps and blues his linens, mends his wools, yet always some strong waiting secret pulls him to a place a wife can never reach. Take me for one. My story serves to teach romantically inclined brides everywhere. Picture me young, eyes blue and quick, my hair a fall of brown that brightly shone in sun when I released it from its braided bun, and he would help me comb it, noting light, noting the way the tresses tricked his sight with 20 colors when he raised them high and let the years play through. Oh, even my fond heart could not have dreamed us closer than those days we laughed and touched and he began to paint me. Love? We knew it then. Me, still and steady, held against the sky by will greater than our two joined. Stretched canvas made a kind of wedding book as his voice bade me smile, stare far away, hold my back straight, or lie upon the lawn. When it grew late, he'd pull me to him, call me some soft name, and kiss me hard. After the first child came, that changed, of course. Of course, I understood he'd turned to trees, houses, the grain of wood and fences, horses' heads held high. And I turned elsewhere, too, the babies, Anne, then Cy, then Flora dead before she knew a year, and Fred and Ella last of all. My dear good wife, he said to me, then picked up brush and palette once again while I sang Hushabye. For him, art turned to line, I thought, no more the blush of warmth he once had wrought from me, but now some higher call of form that took its shapes in silence beyond warm regard for breath and blood. What I saw framed was beautiful, the colors strange, unnamed in any tube. So many shades of blue, I told him once, I think that maybe you have gone to live on some far mountainside where all is dusk and pine and thin owls glide, and every day you drink from the same spring, the coldest in the world, and everything you touch becomes as pure as perfect ice. He looked at me and seemed to see me twice, and then smiled. And that day I recall he drew his tiny sketch for me, a bird that flew with balanced wings outstretched, and on each wing he dabbed a bit of red. Now he can sing his heart to you, he said, and to this town. He turned away and set the new sketch down. Perhaps I should have questioned him. Perhaps I should have sensed he saw the growing gaps between us, him and his good painter's eye. How often we refuse to question why when what we want pretends to be what is. I took the sketch as gift, a sign that his love grew as mine. And all those years, 15, I watched as he drew lines and in between stroked pigment into patterns more and more beyond heart's reach. The world did not ignore him, no. One gallery, then two, then three began to show his work, and that pleased me. The day he first made money from a sale, he brought home gifts. A brooch, new stays of whale, tools for the boys, and just for me, some silk pale as a sky. And then he went to milk the cows, he said. What did he carry there in some small velvet box? Perhaps. And where did she sit waiting? Oh, I don't torture myself with much such speculation. Sure, now as I am, I held my place with him, still do, where that place always was, the rim of some deep bowl he made his life. And her, whom he was painting all that time, we were the wedded couple. She remained there, too, rim's other side, where he forgot the blue, angular shapes and let the brush curve slow and bright again. More times than I will know, enough to make 240 portraits, wrapped and hidden from us all. Before the night he thought he'd die and told me, "In the shed you'll find something to sell." I'd been so sure I knew the man, I would have sworn a sacred oath on every child I'd borne for us that he was true. And so he was. Then, now, what art would have him do, he does. Art took him to that neighbor and her youth and kept him there. The paintings tell the truth. Beside that cold perfection of his grays and blues now hang those warm and secret days when with her he shaped sunlight, rounded gold, while I bore children, made a home, grew old. 40 years now. And what if she hadn't died? Would he have left me, taken her as bride? I used to wonder. Now I understand. The real marriage for him is eye and hand. A woman cannot be the center there. Despite her need, despite her flowing hair.
Raza Rumi from Pakistan has been our most recent writer-in-residence. Greg Bostwick will read an excerpt from Raza's memoir, Delhi at Heart, which is a meditation on a 17th century poet.
Princess Zebunisa, the eldest daughter of Emperor Aurangzeb, was close to her father. Her remarkable story has been overshadowed by the political turmoil that led to Aurangzeb's capture of the Mughal throne and what ensued later. Zebunisa was a favorite of her father and received much exposure to the affairs of court. Having received a sound education in the arts, languages, astronomy, and sciences of the day, Zebunisa turned out to be a highly sensitive princess. She never married, and kept herself occupied with her poetry and her spiritual quest. This is perhaps the greatest of ironies. Aurangzeb's daughter was almost an antithesis of her father's personality of politics. Zebunisi was a Sufi and a gifted poet. In 1724, after her death, her scattered writings were collected under the name Divan-e-Makhfi, literally the Book of the Hidden One, a metaphor for her invisibility at her father's court and at the cosmic level, the invisibility of God. Given her father's dislike for poetry, she could only be makhfi, or invisible. And, like all rebels, she was subversive as well. She attended and participated in the literary and cultural events of her age, dressed in a veil, and she also had a string of lovers, admirers, and protégés. Zebunisa did not share her father's orthodox views on religion and society. Steeped in mystic thought, her ghazals sang of love, freedom, and the inner experience. Though I am Layla of Persian romance, my heart loves like ferocious Majnun. I want to go to the desert, but modesty is chains on my feet. A nightingale came to the flower garden because she was my pupil. I am an expert in things of love. Even the moth is my disciple. No moth am I that in impetuous fashion fly to the flame and perish. Rather say, I am a candle that with inward passion slowly and silently consume away. Zebonisa held a separate court and was a patron of arts and letters, as well as of many poets of the era. One of her longtime companions was the emigre Iranian poet Ashirov. It is said that there was more than friendship in this literary association, and there were several rumors of other indiscreet liaisons as well. However, there is a paucity of direct evidence on this subject. Zebonisa is also said to have been excessively fond of one particular servant girl, or Kaniz. This intimacy was also the subject of gossip. Somehow, Zebonisa managed to retain her individuality and independence. Her life was devoted to the arts and letters. She established many libraries and arranged for the translation of several classical and Arabic and Sanskrit texts into Persian, a clear sign of the influence of her aunt Janahara and uncle Dara Shikoh. Anecdotal accounts also tell us how Aurangzeb tried to undermine Zebonisa's poetry and interest in astronomy. Reading through Zebonisa's poetry, one can understand why Aurangzeb had reservations about her verse. Her inclusive vision ran against the puritanical state and society that Aurangzeb cherished. Look at these lines from a poem in Divan-e-Makhfi called I Bow Before the Image of My Love. No Brahmin I, my sacred thread I cast away, for round my neck I wear her plaited hair instead. I'll just keep going. Like most of the Mughal nobility, Zebonisa loved Lahore. The famous Chor Burji was an entrance to a vast garden that no longer exists. The Chor Burji building had the Ayatul Kursi, an important Quranic verse, literally the verse of the divine chair, inscribed on the main gate. And the date of its completion was recorded as 1646. S.M. Latif, the famous historian of Lahore, translated the Persian verse carved at the entrance as follows. This garden, in the pattern of paradise, has been founded. The garden has been bestowed on Mian Bai by the beauty of Zabinda Begum, the lady of the age. According to Latif, Mian Bai was the favorite female attendant of Zebonisa. The Shah Jahanama also throws some light on the gift of the gardens to the lucky Bai. Since Mian Bai had supervised the laying out of these gardens, the local people called it Mian Bai's gardens. One view is that Zebonisa is buried in Navankot in Lahore. Latif also records how Zebonisa used to sit in the marble pavilion of the Shalimar Gardens and enjoy the soothing rhythm of the waterfall. It was also a place that provided her with inspiration for her poetry. Talking to the waterfall of the Shalimar Gardens, she composed this lyrical quatrain with passion and longing. O waterfall, for whose sake art thou weeping? In whose sorrowful recollection hast thou wrinkled thy brows? What pain was it that impelled thee, like myself, the whole night to strike thy head against stone and to shed tears? The China Kata, Discourses of Satya Sai Baba, cites a telling incident that reveals Zebonisa's personality. Aurangzeb had gifted her with a beautiful mirror. One day while Zebonisa was combing her hair, the mirror slipped from the hands of the maid who was holding it. Seeing the mirror break into pieces, the mortified maid offered herself to be punished. However, Zebonisa remained calm and uttered how happy she was to see the instrument of flattery broken. She took it as a lesson in detachment. Only a fraction of Zebonisa's poetry has been translated into English and Urdu. It is a shame that we have rendered her invisible from mainstream accounts of the history and arts of the Mughal era. Another anecdote records that Aurangzeb invited Nasser Ali, a Persian noble, as a suitor to his court for a poetry contest with Zebonisa. Ali would compose the first line of a couplet, and the princess would have to complete it with a second line within 3 days, failing which she would have to give up her pursuit of poetry. The Persian poet composed the line, "Rare it is to find a black and white pearl." Zebonisa, confronted by writer's block, was perturbed. She was consoled by the intimate Hindu servant girl. Finally, she completed the verse. Dure ablak kase kamdida majud. Rare it is to find a black and white pearl. Majus aske putanye surma abud. Except the surma mingled tear of beauty. But Aurangzeb took the suitor away and, according to folklore, murdered him. Perhaps he could be a political threat, an outsider, a Persian Shia, as his son-in-law. Eventually, it was not her eclectic pursuits, but the rebellion of her brother Akbar, who proclaimed himself emperor in 1681, that hastened the undoing of Zebonisa. While the rebellion was short and unsuccessful, Zebonisa's communication with her exiled brother caused her to be imprisoned in the Gavalia fortress until her death in 1702. There are many other possible reasons, mainly extrapolated from her poetry. Jadu Nath Sarkar states that Zebonisa died in Delhi and was buried in the garden of 30,000 trees outside the Kabuli gate. It is believed that when the railway line was laid out in Delhi, her tomb was demolished and the coffin and the inscribed tombstone were shifted to Akbar's mausoleum at Sikandra in Agra. A poet versified her chronogram in the following words: "A fountain of learning, virtue, beauty, and elegance, she was hidden as Joseph in the well. I asked reason the year of her death. The invisible voice exclaimed, 'The moon has become concealed.'" Here the last line, "Mamach fishu," cannot be adequately translated. Literally, it means the concealed moon. But Mahfi was also Zebonisa's nom de plume, and there is meaningful wordplay here. However, despite all conjectures, her poetry shall remain concealed and quite untranslatable.
A.M. Cold floor, barefoot, door squeaks, quiet, no wake kids. Go kitchen, clean sink. Mrs. always get mad if the sink is dirty. Make eggs, warm milk. 6 a.m. Wake kids. Wash kids. Wash ears, wash neck. Toast bread, cereal, skip and crunch. Spill milk, little Johnny cries. Snow, wake Mrs. White table. Kids eat, hate me. Call me stupid, I know stupid. Say May, do this, do that. May, not my name. Help kids get dressed. T-shirt, jeans, socks, shoes, backpack ready, bus come, kids go. 7 a.m. Fish and cheese for Mrs. Ham and paper for Mr. Mrs. yells. Sink not clean. Oh no. Little piece of pepper there. Coffee. Mr. spills. Mrs. get mad. They argue. Big day today. Vote day. More coffee. 9 a.m. Mrs. and Mr. leave. Clean sink. Start laundry. Go garage. Wash car. Vacuum. Living room. Hallway. Kids' room. 4 bathrooms. No gloves. Toilet. Sink. Scrub floor. Get corners. Mrs. always check the corners. Finish laundry. Start iron. Radio. Vote, vote, vote! Too loud. Big day today, vote day. Don't forget to change toilet paper. 1 p.m. kids back, make lunch. Clean sink, kitchen, put kids sleep nap, finish iron. Go out. Oh, fresh air. Good. Oh, flowers. Bees, butterflies, birds. Neighbors have peacocks. Nice colors. Hurry. Clip bushes. Kids wake. Want snack? Make sandwich. Clean kitchen. Wipe table. Kids go play living room. Kids make mess living room. 6 p.m. Mrs. and Mr. back. Stickers. Nice colors. I voted. Mr. put stickers in garbage. They argue. Big day today. Vote day. Clean living room. Cook dinner. Clean kitchen. Oven. Floor. Sink. Mrs. always gets mad if the sink is dirty. Take garbage out. Save stickers. Nice colors. Voted. Set table, bring food. Sauce pasta no good. Mrs. angry, make new sauce. Family eat, I serve. Clean kitchen, oven, floor, sink. Mrs. always get mad if the sink is dirty. Take dog Sparky out. Oh, fresh air, good. Hurry. 9 p.m. Put kids bed. Not yet. Big day today. Vote day. Finish iron. Bath for Mrs. Help Mrs. hair dry. Rub Mrs. feet. 10 p.m. Mrs. and Mr. go bathroom? No. No. Big day today. Vote day. Family watch TV. They argue. Clean living room. Not yet. Kids want milk and snack. Make milk and snack. Mrs. wants glass of wine. Bring glass of wine. Not red, white wine. Bring white wine. Mr. want whiskey. Bring whiskey. Whiskey no good for stomach. They argue. Big day today. Vote day. Winner. Bad guy. 11 p.m. Good kids sleep. Mrs. and Mr. go bedrooms. They argue. Vote no good. Midnight. They sleep. Clean downstairs. Living room, kitchen, sink. Mrs. always get mad that the sink is dirty. Shh, quiet, no make noise. 1 a.m., finish clean. Oh, stickers. Oh, stickers dirty. I'm dirty. I want to take a bath. No, they here. I wash my armpits. I wash my neck. I wash my face. I wash my hands. I put 1 foot in the sink. Wash. I put the other foot in the sink. Wash. Oh. Mrs. always get mad that the sink is dirty. 2 a.m. I go sleep. No dream. Dream. Breathe. Breathe. Colors. Flowers. Birds, butterflies, beautiful flying creatures with sunflower hats and peacock feathers. Wash. Kids, go kitchen, clean sink. Mrs. always get mad. Get the sink is dirty.
Anthony DiRenzo teaches writing at Ithaca College. Unfortunately, he can't be here this evening, so you won't get a chance to talk to him. He won't get a chance to see that my Italian accent is improving. He writes a column for L'Italo Americano, a San Francisco weekly. And the voice in this column is the voice of one of Rome's so-called talking statues called Pasquino. So one of Pasquino's musings called Auspici will be read by Godfrey Simmons, okay, in English.
At dusk, millions of starlings invade Rome. After feasting all day on ripening olives, they fly south from the Sabine hills and fill the sky. A cyclone of feathers swallows the sun. The birds scatter and regroup, form a living tidal wave, surge and drown an archipelago of tiles and chimneys, garrets and loggias, domes and spires. I dread this sight, particularly near the Ides of March. Starlings, after all, foretold Julius Caesar's death. The day before, a gold-crowned kinglet flew into the theater of Pompeii, a sprig of laurel in its beak. It was pursued by a flock of starlings and torn to pieces. When the augurs warned Caesar, he laughed. That night, he dreamt he flew above Rome, clasping the talon of Jove's eagle. The next day, he was murdered on the very spot where the kinglet had perished. Ever since, starlings have harbingered disaster. But as old communists note, the birds did not conquer Rome until 1926, the year Benito Mussolini assumed total control of Italy. Phalanxes occupied the stone pines at Villa Ada and menaced the picnickers in the Giardino degli Aranci. Squadrons dive-bombed the cars parked along the Lungo Tevere and disrupted flights at the Ciampino airport. These incidents peaked in March, but Mussolini ignored the omens. On Wednesday, April 7th, Il Duce delivered the keynote address at the International Congress of Surgeons. After finishing a paean to science, he paused to salute an ecstatic crowd in the Piazza del Campidoglio. As he strode to his Lancia Asturo limo, he failed to notice a shabby, bespectacled woman wearing a feathered hat and a hideous black dress. She was the Honorable Violet Gibson, the 50-year-old daughter of Edward Gibson, 1st Baron of Ashbourne and Lord Chancellor of Ireland. This small, bird-like spinster was determined to kill the dictator. Ever since moving to Rome, Gibson had become obsessed with Mussolini. Like most Anglo-Irish aristocrats, she revered Mazzini and Garibaldi. Mussolini, she believed, had betrayed the Risorgimento. Nevertheless, Great Britain lionized this tyrant. George V awarded him the Order of the Garter. Winston Churchill hailed him as Italy's savior. British journalists praised his trim, handsome, black-shirted lads for doing such a fine job of keeping down the Bolsheviks. For an Irish nationalist and parlor socialist, this must have been the last straw. Once Mussolini was in his car, Gibson removed a revolver from her pocket. She raised and pointed the gun at the dictator's head and fired at point-blank range. At that moment, a band started playing Giovinezza. Mussolini turned to face the flag and snapped to attention, bringing his head back just enough for Gibson's bullet to miss him. Rather than pierce his skull, it passed through his nostrils. Burn marks were left on both cheeks, but these wounds proved superficial. Within minutes, Mussolini continued his parade on the Capitoline. Photographers ignored his bandaged nose, while reporters wished him luck on his coming trip to Libya. Surrounded by guards, Il Duce addressed spectators. "If I advance, follow me. If I retreat, kill me. If I die, avenge me." But despite the roaring adulation, he remained shaken. An Irish hag had nearly dispatched him. "A woman," he murmured. "Fancy, a woman." After the shooting, the mob beat and nearly lynched Gibson, but plainclothesmen rescued and dragged her into the Palazzo dei Conservatori. Unconscious and badly bleeding, she resembled a mauled crow. Police revived her with brandy and interrogated her in a room containing the colossal marble foot of the Emperor Constantine. As she was carted away to Mantelate prison, a cloud of starlings swirled over the Campidoglio. Gibson's was the first of 4 assassination attempts between April and October 1926. Declaring a state of emergency, Mussolini abolished Parliament, replaced it with a junta, established a special police force, and instituted secret tribunals. He also introduced capital punishment for treason, insurrection, incitement to civil war, and attempted assassination. He did not, however, demand the death penalty for Violet Gibson. Diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic, Gibson was deported back to Britain, where she spent the next 30 years in St. Andrew's Sanatorium in Northamptonshire. Shapeless in an old Macintosh, she wandered the asylum grounds and fed sparrows. She may have posed like St. Francis, but she behaved like a fata morgana. She attacked orderlies with a broom and invoked thunder and lightning against the doctors. Whenever she flapped her arms and squawked, claimed the groundskeeper, starlings would roost in the trees. A refugee from fascist Rome, he always crossed himself in her presence.